the project starts in Dynamics, how the implementation starts and how it goes in step-by-step as a step-by-step process. What are the various activities involved and different methodologies followed in the project implementation as well as in the support, how it goes. We will discuss point by point today. Okay, before I start, if you have any confusion until here in this previous session, you can put a point on. Else, we can start with today's topic of implementation methodology, what I would call it, or implementation. Sorry, missed an M here. Implementation methodology is what we call. Not just implementation methodology, it's the step-by-step process of developing and installing Dynamics for client. So let me start. There are different types of methodologies, as I would say. Different projects will follow different kind of methodologies. One I will call it as agile methodology. So another one is there, which is most prominent in Dynamics development or Dynamics implementation. These two methodologies are very much prominent. So agile methodology as well as waterfall methodology. There are two methodologies what most of the clients use. So I'll explain you later what is agile methodologies and what does a waterfall methodology is. Actually, I can explain it now itself. I'll just give you a small briefing and you can research more on this agile methodology and waterfall methodology. What happens in agile methodology is there will be different teams working for a same project. Suppose, as I would say, there is a finance team, a finance consultants team working on configuring certain modules. There will be a supply chain team working on configuring certain modules. There will be a technical development team, which would be developing some customizations for the client. So all of these teams doesn't have coordination with each other. They will have their own tasks to complete. So they will work on finishing their own task. They don't look for other person, what the other team is doing, how much they have implemented. They don't have any coordination between them. So they will keep working on whatever the work is allocated to them or being allocated to them further in the project, and they'll finish that, and their scope in the project will be limited to that particular task that were given to them in that particular team. So there will be multiple small teams in the agile methodology who will be working for the same project but don't coordinate with each other. They will complete their individual tasks. By the end, all these individual tasks will combine to form a project. That's in agile methodology. It's like there won't be any proper coordination. Developer can be in some other company. Maybe client might opt a project with 2-3 companies. So you will configure all the finance part. Other company will configure all the supply chain part. Another one will configure the project accounting and management part. Another company will configure that development part. Maybe your company will not work on all these aspects, but multiple companies will work for the client in multiple aspects. You don't have in touch with all these people who will work in other modules or other teams. So what happens is there will be a project coordinator or there is a team of project coordination. They will combine all these activities to complete the project or coordinate in between. But you don't involve in or talk to the other person who is working in other team from the other company or other team in your company as well. Maybe if it is in your company, you might have some coordination. But in other companies, I mean, if they are working from other companies, the development team is another company, you will have a formal communication, maybe while you test or you look into the already developed tool. So you might have some communication. So that's generally which agile methodology. So does somebody have any question? Just muted you. If you have any question, you can post it now in the chat. So waterfall methodology is slightly different compared to agile methodology. So in waterfall methodology also there will be multiple teams, but these teams mostly belongs to a single company or a single person. A single organization. So mostly all of you will combine and work. So you will share your task between the teams as well as coordinate with each other in development process and configuration process. So both the agenda of both the methodologies is to complete the project in the given time frame. But the process or the way that they follow is slightly different. That's all. So in agile teams means different teams which don't have any coordination, but they will work for a single goal. Whereas in waterfall methodology, so everything comes in a hierarchy. Waterfall, how the water falls, it will fall from high to low, right? So in the same way, from higher to lower, you will have step-by-step process that follows. You will, in agile methodology, one process will run on the other side as well as the other process will run. But in waterfall methodology, only after completion of one process, the other process will start, or they will have such kind of design of project. So we will complete these tasks first. Later we will hand over it to your team, and your team will complete these tasks. Later the development team will come in between. They will develop some tasks, and later the project will go down again. So in this kind of way we have in waterfall methodology. You will have a proper coordination when you have to do and what you have to do, and how multiple teams will coordinate or cooperate with each other to complete a project here. Whereas it comes to agile methodology, as I said, multiple teams work but with different agendas. Their agenda is only to complete the tasks that were given to them, and later the project coordinators will work on these agile teams and get the project completed by the end. So there is slightly difference. Mostly when it is a very big project, they'll follow this agile methodology. So they will assign tasks to different companies or multiple teams in the same company, maybe if it is a big company. So that happens with very big projects. Normally in usual or comparatively smaller projects or medium-sized projects, they'll follow this waterfall methodology where they'll have a reasonable or manageable team like less than 30 members or like that. So in that you have proper coordination or know each other in the team, whoever is working. Maybe there will be developers as well as functional consultants or technical consultants or debuggers, system architects, different people. But you will have proper understanding or knowing each other in the team on the project work. So whose role is what, you will understand. But here you don't have any idea of each other's roles and responsibilities or tasks. So that's the difference between these two methodologies. In interviews, they will ask you, so what kind of methodology your company had followed for your project and all. So I'll guide you through this later for the interview process. I'll help you out how you can explain this process and methodology. Okay. Regardless of whatever methodology you follow, the steps remain the same. The steps in the project remain the same. How the project will be implemented, or how it is started, and how it will be tested, and how it will be handed over to the client. So all these steps will remain same, and now we will see those steps. Okay. So how does the project starts? Or we also have another step-by-step process, as I said here, the step-by-step process of how the Dynamics project starts. We also call it as actually sure step methodology. The step-by-step process is called sure step methodology. This sure step methodology normally includes the step-by-step process. So what happens here is the step-by-step. I'll explain you. So before I start this, do you have any confusion until here? Any one of you? Do you like to add anything else here in this? Yes, no? Bala? Chaitanya? No, Naveen, no, okay. Okay, Saideep?
Yeah, it's clear.
Fine. Thank you for the response. Okay, so next then we'll start with the step-by-step process of how a project will be taken or started. So the very first step that I would say is I can say this as pre-sales activities. What is meant by pre-sales activities? We'll discuss now. There are multiple things in pre-sales activities. Normally, if a client, I'll call the client as Reliance. Reliance want to get Dynamics installed for one of their domain, maybe for a retail domain, suppose. But in Reliance, we have a lot of domains, right? We have communication domain as well as we have retail. We have clothing, textiles we have. So a lot of things. So for retail domain, they want to install and they are looking for someone, a good company which is having a good rating in the market for development or implementation of Microsoft Dynamics. So they will review all the market leaders or the people who are good in the market, and they will have their own budget for the project. So we can spend this much for getting Dynamics installed. So we are looking for people who can do that for us. So they will go and research in the market and they'll find out. So suppose some companies like Accenture, Deloitte, and EY, and a lot of them are implementing Dynamics these days, and they will look for each of them who would be better for them or who have good reviews in the market or who have done extremely good job in implementing the projects previously. So they will ask for quotation, or else the or else if they find out that if they will advertise or say that we are looking for if we are looking for implementation of Dynamics in our business, so we want your quote or we want someone from your company to come over and explain us what all you are offering or how can you implement a project for us, and discuss about the sales activities like how much it would cost and how much you can offer and all these things they'll discuss. So somebody from Accenture, suppose, will be a marketing guy, will or marketing manager, whoever brings out contracts or projects for the company, will go on to the manager of Reliance or somebody who is taking care of that implementation, or they will have a conversation, or the higher heads will have a conversation. So how much does the project cost and what kind of project do they need and what are all their requirements, normal usual rough requirements, how much does it cost and all the budget activities and how they have to pay and all, and how many days it would take at this rough time frame and details. They will have a conversation and they'll, if at all possible, this team from Accenture or the marketing team from Accenture will submit a proper documentation of the estimation and all details. So that's the pre-sales activities. What happens in pre-sales activities is I can simply say it as contract heading, later estimation, I can say cost estimation, you can say simply cost estimation of project, later budget, how much budget is available, then timeline, how much time it would take, and then phases of project, in how many phases you will complete. Will you complete all of them, all of the project in any single phase, or do we take multiple phases? Because if they have multiple companies from different locations other than India, if it's few in India, few in US, few in Canada, like that, so how they want it to get implemented, and how, if they want it all the Indian legal entities wants to be implemented in single phase and second phase for US, second, third phase for Canadian companies, like that. If you agree any phases or if they have any idea of phases, so in how many phases we can, then the resources. So the pre-sales guy from the Accenture will explain that we have very good resources and very well equipped skilled employees in our companies, so they can accomplish this project for you definitely in defined time frame, and we can do a good job for it. They'll try to convince, however they want to get the project for the company, so they'll say anything to convince them. And later we have any other agreements. If they have any other agreements that they will pay some amount in one time and the later the remaining amount in this time, and these things they will discuss. Finally, if everything goes right, if the pre-sales activities or the discussions goes right, so they will get the contract signed. So that's the first step. Contract will get signed. So this is the entire process, which is not related to any consultant, but I just want to explain you what usually happens or how usually it starts. Okay, but the consultant job or the consultant task will start from here. Okay, so this one is a pre-sales activities, which does not mostly include any consultant. The marketing people and the client side people will have an agreement such or write down a contract such that the project will be allocated to this particular company on which the consultant gonna work further. Okay, any confusion in this until here? Anybody? If there is no, you can be silent. If there is any doubt or concern, you can unmute and ask. Okay. Okay, I'll take it as a no. So this somebody is asking something.
No, Prakash, no.
Okay, right. The second point I would say is kickoff meeting. So what does a kickoff mean? Does anybody have any idea what does a kickoff meeting means? Even say it as a initial meetup. So client versus consultant. So what happens here? Not mostly the consultants might meet or not. Kickoff meeting is generally a first initial meetup to discuss the project needs. The people from the client side will come and explain how their business process runs and what are the different business activities they deal with, what is the structure of their organization, and how they want this project to be implemented, and all these requirements they will share with in the initial kickoff meeting. So, and they will also introduce the people from their side who will be cooperating with us or sharing the needed requirements on the details for each department or for each module, or maybe project coordinators from their side. So they will introduce them to the people on the other side. The other side will be consultants as well as the managers from this company who is going to implement the project for the client. So these people also will introduce themselves, that they will explain that we have these many consultants working for your project. So these people are senior consultants, these are the junior consultants, or these are the technical people we have. So you can discuss many things here in this initial meetup. So if you have consultant does have any questions or any other objectives to be clarified, so they can also discuss them with the client, or else the client people, if they have any confusions or doubts, they can discuss it with the company side. I mean, this is called business actually. In the normal terms, client is called business. So the people from business side and the people from consultancy side, or the people from the project side, what we call, will meet up and discuss. Have a general initial meeting. So they will continuously have meetings for each and everything. They will have meetings and they will schedule meetings and discuss on regular basis. But this is an initial meetup to introduce each other, and also to introduce about project to the project to everybody in the who is involved in. Might be most of the times the junior consultants or the senior consultant also doesn't jump into these kind of initial meetings. Normally the delivery managers, what we call, or the other senior managers will go attend these meetings, or senior consultants sometimes be also attend these meetings and understand what is the client's requirement and expectations from the consultancy side, not from the soft project handling team side. Also these people will understand what is the client's expectations and requirements and all. So that's what happens in the initial kickoff meeting. So the project will kick start from here. So any doubt in this point? Anything to be added to this? Anyone? Okay. And the third point is requirement gathering. So what is requirement gathering, and why do we do requirement gathering, or why it is most important or needed in business, in project? So normally in this meeting, what you have to understand from the client side is, as a consultant, what you have to understand is what is the client's business structure. How many, I mean, if it is an organization, how many companies they have in it, and what kind of business process they have, what are the goods, what are the buying and selling aspects of that particular client, what they will usually buy and what they sell, how is their vendor base and customer base, what kind of calendars they follow, what kind of transactions they do on regular basis, and how many foreign currency transactions they'll do, what kind of process that they are following until now. So they might be using a different ERP, or they might be using some other source in which they are recording the transactions or maintaining their accounting database until now. So how they are doing it until now, and how it can be implemented in Dynamics, that you will get an idea once you properly listen to them what they're explaining about their business. Okay, you will here itself you will have an understanding that this can be brought into Dynamics, or this process can be easily followed or worked on in Dynamics, or there is a gap in between. We'll discuss what is gap and all details again. So in this meeting only we'll understand what does client need, and what are the requirements of the client and all. So coming to this point, once after you understanding the client's business pattern as well as the structure of the organization, and you will have a rough idea about the project, then you will start gathering the requirements from the client. So what kind of requirements we will gather? It all depends again on different modules. Normally, I'll take an example of small example of a module, which is a very small module, cash and bank management. So in cash and bank management, we normally deal with bank transactions. So if at all you want to understand or gather any requirements for cash and bank module, you have to understand firstly what kind of bank transactions they do, how many different methods of transactions they do with the banks, like check payments, electronic payments, or if you go to Germany, or if you go for any German company or Poland company, they have the SEPA payments, and as well as there are other ways of credit transfers in their own country. So most of them are related to electronic payments only. So these kind of things. So cash payments, check payments, electronic payments, or receipts. How many types of receipts are there? How they'll receive from the customers. You have to understand what kind of bank transactions will be done in cash and bank management or in the business normally. So understanding that, you will get an idea about what all information you have to gather. So different methods of bank transaction they are doing, or different types of transaction they are doing, you will gather those requirements. Later, what kind of reconciliation they will follow for bank reconciliation? You know bank reconciliation, right? We will generally match the recorded transactions in our books with the bank statement, and we will reconcile them if everything is proper or not, amounts and details are correct or not. We will reconcile on periodic basis. Periodic means it can be weekly or monthly or quarterly. Normally they'll do weekly or monthly. They don't go for quarter because there will be a lot of transactions. So again, what kind of process they want for this bank reconciliation? Do they, if they have minimum transactions, do they want to go for manual reconciliation, or are they looking for any automatic reconciliation, which does not involve people in between? It will automatically import the bank statement and reconcile. So these kind of solution if they are looking for, or what kind of method they are looking for. So if at all it is so, we need to gather the requirements again, different types of transactions again, and what are the different types of banks they are using, and is that banks provide the statements really according to which Dynamics accepts and all. So this you will follow. Again, we have a check printing methodology in Dynamics. If they want to follow the check printing methodology through Dynamics, again, what kind of checks they are using. So all these things we have to understand. So we have different types of checks called fixed and free, wherein fixed means bank will automatically give the check numbers. I mean, whenever we take a checkbook from the bank, check numbers are already printed on the checks. Under free, check numbers are not printed. We can print whatever check number we want on the check. So there are different ways again. So this all kind of requirements, what all is needed for business will be understood here in this requirement gathering. So I just took an example of cash and bank, whereas it comes to other modules, it will differ again. If it comes to fixed asset module, what are the different types of fixed assets they have? What are the different categories they have, like vehicles, computers, electronic equipment, large scale machinery, medium scale machinery. So you have to understand the structure, and there you have to gather the structure or requirements of the client such that you can install all of them or configure all of them in Dynamics, and you can give a rough overview to the client that this is how we will install and this is how it looks like. So that's all with the requirement gathering part. So you have to gather the requirement from the client as many as you want. You have to gather a lot of data from the client. Usually the higher people in the project, the business analyst as well as the senior consultant will work on requirements gathering, not mostly the middle consultants or the associate consultant does not get any chance in the requirement gathering part. So this is with requirement gathering. Does anybody have any confusion in this point?
I have a question, Jayprakash.
Yes, Bala, please.
So, is there any particular methodology that they follow to capture the business pattern and the organization structure? Standard
Right.
kind of.
It all varies from project to project. So again, they will have a normal, template kind of
Yeah,
documentation
yeah, yes.
wherein they have to fill the details and all. So if the company is used with dealing with Microsoft project, they will generally have these templates and all, which data should be compulsorily collected. What are the prerequisites that has to be thought of or to be given I mean a look at when you are collecting the gathering from requirements from the client. So all these things will be addressed to you or will be explained to you if you are going as a consultant for requirement gathering. You will be addressed. I mean, you will be explained what are the things that you have to gather from them, or you will also will get a better idea once you understand the business pattern of the client or process of the client. Okay.
Can we understand that 99% of the time it will be captured, the entire requirement will be captured?
Yes, actually, it doesn't go in a single step. So if you gather some requirement now, and if you need anything more, you will again consult the client, and he will send the more requirement. It happens on a regular basis.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Later, the next step will be preparation of various documents. Various documents involve FRD, what I call FDD, what there is another one, then there is such and such SD, TDD. We'll discuss all of them. What are these FRDs, FDDs, and all things. So you will prepare various documents in the project again. Once you gather some requirements, you have to structureize your project, right? There will be, once you structureize the project, you will go for work assignment. So when everything is properly documented, all the requirements that you have gathered are properly documented, then you will go for work assignment. Like you will assign some work to a team or a particular consultant or a person in the team so that you accomplish this work. So these are the proper documents that for the requirements of the client. So you give a look at it, understand this, and implement that in Dynamics. Or if you face any lapse or any issues, you have to report to your higher manager or the one who is above you, the next hierarchy. So we'll discuss each document, what kind of documents we will do and all. So it's not a point actually. Let me bring this point down. Okay. So here we have something called as FRD. So this is also called as functional requirement document. So what is a functional requirement document? So what happens here is, so since we gather all the requirements, right? Here we will gather all the requirements. We will document them properly. So we will gather maybe in any other way. Client will submit all the requirements in their format. So we will document them in our project manner or in our way of documentation. We will document them. So all these requirements will be documented accordingly. Or else you can document the requirements module by module. So in general ledger, these are all the requirements. In cash and bank management, this is the requirements, and that there we will prepare a FRD for cash and bank management. Or else in cash and bank management, you can prepare 2 or 3 FRDs. For this, one FRD will be for check mechanism, how to design checks and how the check should work. FRD will be for that. Another FRD will be for another process in banks. What are the different types of bank transactions and how to configure them? There will be another FRD. So you can have individual FRDs for each topic as well as a normal FRD for one module. So who will prepare these FRDs? The senior consultants or the business analysts. What we have in project, they'll have business analysts. So these people will prepare these functional requirement documents, or they'll write down these documents. This is the client's requirement, and this is how we're going to configure, or they'll just document the client's requirement and prepare the documents. Once the documents are prepared, they will again re-verify with the client. So these are all the requirements that you have given us so far. So we have documented them. Please go through them and add if you have anything else to add, or if there are any changes or corrections to be made, please let us know. And once if you agreed all of this, that will take some time actually in project initially. Once if every requirement is gathered and documents are prepared, you will agree or get them signed such that for now you have agreed to implement this much only for the client. If they bring up anything additional later in the future, you can look after if that can be added into the promised project cost, or if it is anything that is additionally chargeable and all. So that's for that purpose, you will initially have a documentation and you will get it signed or agreed from the client side, so that later if at all anything goes wrong, or if you configure something, and if client is not satisfied with that, you can show that this is what we have explained you previously or documented previously. This is what you have given us. We have agreed it previously. So that's how we are doing it. So now if you are disappointed or not satisfied, we have to start it over from somewhere else. Again, we need a month time. And for that, you have to bear the expenses once again. So these kind of things also happen in projects. So most of the things that you will start and end will be explained to the client or will be duly agreed with the client. So for that purpose, we will do proper documentation of the requirements gathered and the tasks that we're gonna accomplish in Dynamics for the client. Understood? Anything else, or does anybody want me to repeat this point?
I have a question. By requirement gathering, with that requirement gathering only, we will prepare BRD, business requirement document.
Yes, of course. So business requirement documents and functional requirement documents are almost one and the same. Okay. So business requirement document is something where you prepare it here while you gather the requirements. You'll prepare what are the business requirements of the client. So you can break it up as a part, as a functional requirement document for each module again. So business requirements are a huge document or a big document, you know. For each and every module, you will have this requirements noted down in the business requirement document. So this is usually called business requirement document. Also, the functional requirement document is usually called as business requirement document also. But there can be multiple documents, as I said. It can be a single document, or it can be broke into multiple documents, so that all of them will combinedly represent the requirements of the client. That's all. Anything else, Praveen?
Yeah, clear. Thank you.
Okay. Then we have another one called as FDD, which is also called as functional design document. We will discuss what is this and all. Design documents. We'll discuss this in this point. So point number 5 we will discuss, and with this we will discuss. So in between, actually, before creating this functional design document, we will have another step called as gap fit analysis. We also call this as fit gap analysis. Any way you can call it, either gap fit analysis or fit gap analysis. So what does gap fit analysis mean, or what does it represent, the fit gap analysis? So anybody have any idea? So what generally it indicates, gap and fit? So both are opposite terms, right? Gap means having some space. Fit means fitting it in the space, or the space is closed. So, fine, let me get to that. So normally when client explains their business requirements, we will look into Dynamics, or we already know how the Dynamics works and different processes works on Dynamics. Sometimes the client's requirements will be beyond what are the different options available in Dynamics. So they don't want the business process to be run on the features available on Dynamics. They want it to work in a different way, or they want us to customize something for them for their business simplicity, or to achieve something in their business process, or there is a different way of process that they want to follow in the business, for which they want us to develop something in Dynamics. Or there are certain processes which can be achieved only by development or customizing the tool. So how can we know what has to be developed, or what are the requirements that can be met on Dynamics? So by doing this gap fit analysis, then only we will know. So we know all the requirements of the client. Now we have gathered and prepared documents. Now the next part is analyzing how much of these requirements will fit into Dynamics, how many of them are out of box or not available in Dynamics, and which has to be brought in or developed in, customized in Dynamics. So that you have to understand. So that's what we call as gap fit analysis. Fit means the requirement of the client is fitting into Dynamics, or it can be achieved on Dynamics available features. Gap means there is a gap between what client is expecting and what Dynamics is providing, or what are the different process in Dynamics. They are not matching with the client's process, or slightly have to be improved or developed, or something additionally has to be done. So that's what we call as gap. So this gap will be filled with that customization. So that's the explanation for this gap fit analysis. So this gap fit analysis is also done by business analysts as well as the project heads, whoever is analyzing the documentation part and are analyzing the business requirements of the client. So you can also understand the gap fit analysis. Usually when somebody brings up some task, this can be achieved in Dynamics or not. So if it is not achievable in Dynamics, is there any other way how we can develop or make this work? So this is what we call gap fit analysis. Suppose client want a report on daily basis or on periodic basis like weekly or monthly. He wants certain information in that report. So does that kind of report exist in Dynamics? Does Dynamics providing such kind of report which extract the data that is required by the client? Yes or no? You have seen some reports and they are providing the data that client requires. So then it's fit. I mean the client's requirement is fit into Dynamics. If there is no such report, we have to customize that report for the client, which exactly extract the data that client needs. So we will record business transactions, right? So if you want to extract certain transactions or certain kind of data, so that report will do that for them. So that is not available in Dynamics and we have to configure that report. So that will be gap. So this gap can be filled by configuring or customizing that report. The technical people will work on customizing that report part and the functional people will test it once it is configured. How it's working fine or it's not working fine will be tested by the functional people. So that is what we call as gap fit analysis. Any confusion in this gap fit analysis? Anyone? Chaitanya, on it, understood this one? Bala?
Like how often does there comes a requirement where a client will be asked to go for a gap fit analysis?
Gap fit analysis done every time, regardless of the whatever the client's requirements are. Gap fit analysis is always done because you read the client requirements and you have to configure them in the Dynamics. So you have to understand what are the available features in Dynamics or methods in Dynamics that can help the client to work with their business activities. So if client needs certain kind of report, as I told, and it's not available, so you have to configure it for the client accordingly. So that's how a fair business works. Or client satisfaction is the utmost important thing in a project development part. So you should keep your client happy. May you suggest a workaround or may you develop and give it to the client. Client satisfaction is utmost important. If he is not satisfied with your work, that will also you have in your contractual agreements. If I am not satisfied with your work, we will revoke the contract in between or we will go for someone else. That will also client will agree with you. Okay, you should be always worried of that your client will leave. If in case such client will leave you, your business will get down or your company's business will get down or you will get bad reputation in the market. So always companies strive hard for client satisfaction or meeting the business requirements of the clients most of the time. So most of the times in every project they'll do gap fit analysis and try to understand what are the additional requirement does client have that is not supported on Dynamics that can be developed and in how many ways they can develop it. So that will be done in gap fit analysis. Okay.
JP, basically, before starting a project, like, is there any particular criteria or requirements that consumer should face, like documents and all?
You have to reframe your question maybe.
So yeah, like whatever you is correct, but as you said, like business analyst and senior consultants, what is their role? Like they will be checking all these documents, right?
Yes. Business analysts basically analyze the business.
Yeah.
What is
basically you're
client's
trying to explain the gap fit analysis for that only, right? Before
yes.
like starting a project, we should take all the like documents and everything should get ready before starting it, right?
Exactly. We have to draw a project plan, how it has to be started, what are the different tasks that people have to do and different people have to be assigned with. And if we do proper gap fit analysis only, then only we will understand what are the additional requirements that have to be developed so that we can give a task to the development team to work on these gaps. So how to fit these gaps, you just have a look at it, try to figure out some solutions, some possible ways. If there are 2-3 ways, we will find out a best possible way to develop and we will explain the client first, that these are the three different ways that can be used, and which one would you prefer, such that according to the client's understanding and client's suggestion, we'll go with that particular development. Okay.
So these business analysts and senior consultants, like in which criteria they fall? Like in the demo class, you mentioned that there will be 3 areas like implementation, development, and testing.
Business analysts, system architects, different people we have. In big project, there will be system architects. System architects means normally who designs this the customization part. So who understands the client requirement and also understand how the dynamics works, and accordingly they will architect the next customization. So that we have to develop from zero, right? We should have a rough view in the rough idea about how it should look like, how it should work and all. So that will be done by system architects and business analysts. So this business analyst will also always be in implementation project only. Most of the times they are the superiors in the implementation project. They'll guide the project, or they will prepare everything that is required for the project, or they will give the source for the consultants to work on. So if they don't prepare any documents, consultants would not have any idea about how to start and where to start and where to end. So these are the people who structurize the project or make the project plan.
Okay, thanks.
No worries. So I'm here in the gap fit analysis. Once this gap fit analysis is done, so we will prepare an FDD. So what does an FDD means? FDD means a functional design document. So we are listening. I might take 5 more minutes after 9 o'clock. Just bear with me, okay? Functional design document. What happens in functional design document? So FRDs are normally the requirement gathering document that you have gathered and prepared. FDDs are something where you have to design something. So it is called a functional design document, as I have already mentioned it here. I'll remove it here. So what happens in functional design document? So we understood there is a gap in the system. Something has to be customized additionally or developed additionally. So how it should look like roughly, or how it should function. So that will be written in functional design document from the functional perspective, from the user interface view, how the design should look like, or if as I said, if the client needs a specific report, specific kind of report, how the report should look like. What are the parameters that the report should have? So parameters means the criteria that we give in report, like voucher number or journal number or any other criteria we give, how it should look like. Later, once the report is extracted, how the design should look like, what are the different kinds of data that the report should bring out. So all these things will be explained or written as a document. So that design will be explained in a document which we call as functional design document. So it's a route map for development. This functional design document will be a route map for development. So according to this functional design document, there is a next one which we call as TDD, technical design document. So the technical team will follow this functional design document to develop the technical aspect. So they have to develop, right? So they will analyze the technical part. So which code has to be run and which package has to be prepared, what in which kind or what methodology they have to follow technically. So they will analyze on the basis of this functional design document, and they will prepare a technical route map for developing this. So that's what we call as technical design document. Okay, once this design is decided and you are going to implement it or you are going to customize it, you will also have some test cases. Once the design is done, what are the things that you have to test? If the report is designed, you have to run the report and see if it is exactly working fine or not. With different criteria, you will run the report and see the outcome. If the outcome is as expected or not. If there are any issues, you will again explain them to the technical team and say that this report is not working fine, or the outcome of this customization is not so good or not exactly what the client is looking for. You have to make some changes or fix this issue. So they will again, the developers or the technical team will again look into it, fix that bug or issue, and again come back to you saying that this is now fixed. Can you please retest it again? So once it is developed again, you will test it. If the issues are fixed, you will again test it and find out the results. So as long as you will find for the fair results or the exact accurate result that you are looking for, you have to keep on testing it, or this technical team have to keep on fixing it or developing it. So that's what happens with these functional designs. or customizations. So customizations will be handled in this way. So I missed a point, like testing is also done here in this process only. So once the FDD is prepared, according to the FDD, you will customize, right? So I'll write that point here. Customize or develop the additional requirements. Mostly, whatever the client needs will be available in Dynamics. Dynamics meets all the business requirements, but some clients will come up with some additional requirements or some silly things which has to be customized and all. So for that purpose, mostly they will also work with customizations or any other integrations. So what does it mean by integrations? Anybody have any idea what does integrations mean other than customizations? Customizations, as I said, is something additionally we will develop in system, but integrations means something third-party tools that we link with Dynamics. Okay, like generally we'll have third-party tools, any other third-party tools to export the data into out from Dynamics or to import the data into the Dynamics. Suppose in the project that I work in, we have an integration wherein all the transactions that are recorded on daily basis will be imported into the system directly. So there will be no user intervention. So they will record it in the store or somewhere else. So those transactions will automatically be coming into the system. Today's transactions will be coming in by the next day's morning into the system and automatically gets posted without users posting it. So it's a kind of integration. It's a third-party tool that brings in the data into the Dynamics. So how to link this or how to integrate this to third-party tool with Dynamics, and how to bring the transactions into Dynamics, and what happens once the transactions are brought into the Dynamics, if they're posted correctly or not, are we facing any other issues or challenges while we are integrating or while the data is posted? Are we able to find the good results for this data that is brought in through the integration? So all these things will be again checked up if you have any other third-party integrations. Okay, there are also third-party integrations for exporting data, like for managing any electronic payments in the retail stores or linking the third-party payment integrations with the Dynamics. There are a few things. So it again depends on the requirement of the client or client's country's business process or their own business process. Depends again. So not mostly will work with integrations and customizations, but technical people will take care of it. But the functional aspects involved in this development as well as integration results and all, you will look into it. So you know why this is customization is done and how user have to work on this customization. If a report is developed, how to run the report, that you have to understand as a functional consultant. And once the report is run, what data is extracted, that you have to understand as a functional consultant. Okay, so those things you have to understand. So that's with customizing and development part. Once the FDD is prepared, according to this FDD and TDD, the development is done and the customization will be done. So that's with point number 7. So anybody have any doubt in this one? So here also I have small point, which is also always related to that point only. FDD. This is analysis, what we also call as normal testing. Identify if it is working fine or if there are any bugs or issues. So once the customization is done, you know, you have to test it to identify if it is working fairly or not. If it is working properly or not. Later you have to also understand, I mean, there will be some test cases that were already written. So like some 5 to 6 test cases or some 10 test cases, how to run this report, different criteria to run this customized report or customized process. What are the results that you are achieving? So they'll also write how to run the report and the expected results. So you should run or you should test the particular process or customized process exactly as they indicated in the test case, and also identify the results are accurate or not. The expected results also will be written there. So if the results are not accurate, you have to inform to your superior or to the technical person whoever have developed them or escalate it to them such that those issues will be fixed. And the next time you will expect some good results or accurate results from that particular customization. They will fix them. Once they'll fix, they'll inform you, please, we have fixed all these issues. Can you please recheck it or test it once again? So you have to test it again and understand if it is working fine. Mostly the test consultants or the people in testing will do this. Praveen, you might be having good idea on this. So this is with this point, test case analysis and testing. So normally while preparation of FDD only, they will write these test cases, how to test it and how to test the developed customization and what are the expected results and all they'll write, or later also they can write test cases for a specific FDD or specific design that is being developed. Okay. So after all configuring everything, we have functional test. So I just discussed everything about the design and developments. Other than design and development, there will be other aspects. So there will be the other aspects, right? So whatever the solutions that are fitting into Dynamics, all the business requirements that are fitting into Dynamics, so that will be done normally. So usually they will be configured. So for that we have this SD, which is called as solution document. So if they're fitting into Dynamics, you will usually configure all of them in Dynamics and prepare some solution documents. So this is the process in Dynamics. So we have configured all of them in Dynamics. So you can prepare these solution documents are not usual. Some in many projects they'll also do the solution documents. So other than which is not fitting, there is also, there are other processes which will fit in Dynamics, other business requirements. So you will configure them parallelly, and this whatever doesn't fit will be developed on the other side by the development team. So both will run in parallel. So once everything is completed, all the configurations that are fitting into Dynamics are done, as well as the customizations are also done and tested, and your integrations are also done. You will go for a functional test. Functional test means testing all the process activities now, roughly. So you know how the client's business works. So you will give a test for all these activities. You will prepare some purchase orders. You will prepare some invoices, or you will post some invoices, see the accounting impacts. You will extract the reports, see how the data is being shown up in the reports, or you will go for the customizations, test them once again. Normally on regular basis, client will have thousands of transactions, right? You will try to post those thousands of transactions and see if system is handling them properly or not. So you will test all this functional testing here you will do. So test consultants, or normally the implementation team only do this functional test also. Whoever implements also does the testing part. So once it qualifies with you, and in this part you will identify a lot of issues, or you will find some lapse in configuration or issues which you have to fix by yourself or fix by your development team. So for that purpose only we will do testing. Before we give it into the hand of client, we will do a lot of testing or rigorous testing such that the product is in good quality and good shape and good designs, and it is feasible for the client business process. So for that purpose, we will do multiple tests, what we call as functional tests or functional tests. So once it qualifies your test, so what you will do is you will submit it, or you will give it for the client for a review. So the client side users will test on it, or you might help the client side users to test on the Dynamics. Whatever you have implemented until now, you will do. So that's what we call as UAT, or user acceptance test. User acceptance test. So how can users test on it? Users should be trained previously by you or by anybody in the project team. So initially you will give user training, how to post a purchase order, how to post a journal, how to track transactions. So all these things you will give training parallelly while you configure only, or you will prepare documents while you configure, such that the users will understand the step-by-step process, how to work on each process. So users doesn't have any idea. The end users who work on business doesn't have any idea about configurations. They only know about how to post a journal, how to track a journal. So these things they'll know. So once you give some training, they will then test on the tool. You will hand over that tool or environment to them, and they will log in and test on it. So you have tested it and you felt it is fair, working fine. So you will give them so that they will also test and understand that it is working fine, or they might identify some lapses they might identify some issues which they would suggest to you again to fix them, and again you will work on fixing them. So that happens again. So this user acceptance test is also important. So you will also guide the users how to test here if in case they don't have any idea. Mostly client side people will do a lot of testing to prove you wrong or to make the system fail such that you will fix it again and make it better for them. So that's what happens in user acceptance test, or this test is done by the client side people, this user acceptance test. Okay. So I only have 2 more points. Just bear with me for another 5 minutes, please. Okay. So what happens once after users UAT is done or user acceptance test is done? If it is fair enough and if the client is satisfied and the users are good, and good with whatever they have tested until now, you can go for live. So I'll explain you what is live and all. If users identified some mistakes or if users identified some lapses or issues, they will suggest again to the consultants or to the project team, and they have to fix it. So once fixing it, again we will test that if they are fixed properly or not, and again we will say the user that we have fixed all these issues. Can you please retest it and confirm if it is up to your expectations? Again they'll test and let us know. So this process will take multiple tests and a lot of time, because ultimately the thing is you have to provide a good quality product to the customer or the client. You don't have to throw anything at their face because they're paying for you. They're investing a lot of amount for getting this Dynamics installed for as according to their business requirement and business process. So you have to be very fair enough in developing it or installing it for them. So that's what happens here in this point. So we only have 2 more points to discuss. Do you have any confusion until here? Anyone in these parts?
Yeah, who will prepare that FDD and TDD?
FDD and TDD will be prepared by system architects as well as technical developers, whoever have good idea on how they have to develop Dynamics and various technical aspects of Dynamics will prepare these FDDs and TDDs. Okay. Most of the times they will seek the idea of consultants. So they will ask consultants to do some gap fit analysis if it is fitting or if there is anything additional that need to be added into this. Okay, as a consultant, you should have a normal idea what are the processes available in Dynamics. Is it suitable for client's process or not? Or if there is any gap, you have to suggest that there is another way to handle this. If you have any workaround other than a standard process, or you can say that there is a large gap here. This has to be developed and filled. So the other side, the system architects or the technical people will look into it, see what kind of gap we have, different ways of achieving or filling this gap, and they will go with one of the standard way or one final way, such that with that plan they will develop the customization. Okay. So before working on these developments, they will have a lot of approvals as well as take the ideas from different people and from the client side people also. So once they get confirmations only, they'll go for development. Okay. So then if everything goes fair until here, so what happens in this last here is go live activities, what we call. So what happens in go live is until now you have configured everything, right? So you will take them into live now, such that from tomorrow onwards, once the live activities are done, from the next day onwards, client will start recording transactions or the users will start recording the day-to-day activities in various modules. So that's what we have in go live. Before going live, we have some pre-go live activities, which means bringing the balances, bringing the previous transactions or previous balances from past data if client requires. If client is working on another ERP from 2010 to 2021, so this 11 years previous data, if client wants it to be brought into Dynamics, we'll figure out different ways of bringing this data into Dynamics, how we can bring it and how it should look like, what is client wanting and why he want that data. It is only for preparation of reports, or does he have any other requirement for with that data? So we have to understand all that and bring that transactional data into the production server or the main server or main environment. So once everything is configured properly in the main environment, they will start with the go live activities or their regular day-to-day transactions. They'll start recording the transactions. You will have a lot of issues while going live. Maybe you'll have some technical issues, server issues, as well as some data missing issues. Can be anything. You will face issues going live, and you have to be very attentive while the client is going live or while the project is going live, what we call. Once it is went live and they'll start doing the regular day-by-day transactions or working on it. So we have go live support. Next point, what happens in go live support is usually once the client goes live, they might face some issues, maybe not on first day, maybe on the second day or third day, and initially they might face some issues. So you will already have an agreement with the client that once after implementation and going live, we will support you for 1 or 2 months, or or else there'll be other supporting team which will be for this support, which will continuously support them. So that we will discuss again in the next point. So what happens in this go live support is once they go live, or it may go for a week or for a month, these kind of activities. So they might face normal issues or confusions while they are initially using that tool. So it's obvious, right? Users might feel confusion or might face some issues, or sometimes integrations might fail initially, which you later identify. You may not identify it in testing, or you might later identify while users are working on it. So then you have to fix it, or you have to support the client on those issues, or the users on those issues, to resolve those issues and make a fair business process, or make the dynamics work fairly for client and for users. So that's what we have in go live support. This will go for few months, or a month or few months initially. The last point we have is normally support contract subscription. Support contract subscription. So if you implement this, if your company implement this project for client might subscribe it with you only, so that you will have good idea, or your consultants already have good idea about what are all done in this project. So usually your consultants only, or another support team will support the client on regular basis. So client will subscribe. So for until now implementation, you have separate contract. After implementation, you have a support contract. So regularly they will face issues, right? So annually we will give this much of amount. You please ensure that all the issues will be resolved on timely basis, and ensure a smooth business work for our process or for our business. Just ensure that Dynamics will work smoothly. Or if you face any issues, or users face any issues, make sure that your consultants available to support us or to resolve those issues. So client will agree for a support contract subscription with the same developer company, or they might go for any other company. They can also directly go for Microsoft for subscription. They leave all these things from the partner and they'll go for Microsoft for direct subscription. So AMC is what we call annual maintenance contract. So in general terms, they'll call it as annual maintenance contract. So what happens is they'll agree that on a yearly basis, we'll pay this much and you have to support us for our business activities. So that's what they agree in AMC. Okay, so that's what happens in here. So initially the client will get some licenses from Microsoft. They will buy these servers in which we have to configure. So dynamic servers, they can buy some 2-3 servers, or they can buy more. So normally we have production server, which is a main server, main environment we call in Dynamics language. Production environment we call a UAT, or this is also called a sandbox environment. This is for initial configurations and testing purpose. We have UAT or sandbox environment. We also have another one called as development environment, in which the development activities will be done usually, or the technical team will develop some packages and install them in Dynamics and see if it is working fine or not, and this kind of environment. So data here and here will be different again. So we can also copy the complete database from here and put it in this production environment, or copy it from here and insert it or import it into this system, this environment. So they'll have 3 different servers, or they can also take multiple servers other than 3. So these are the standard or usual servers in every client holds, or every client takes subscription from Microsoft as production, which is a main server, UAT or sandbox, which is a testing server or initial implementation, as well as later testing purpose. We have this UAT. And development is for developing or customizing something and installing them into the development environment, and testing purpose we have this environment. So we have 3 different environments here. So these are the various steps. Here is how the project starts. This is the first step, and it is how it ends. The implementation ends until here after go live. So after go live, we have support. So this support is never ending. As long as customer or client is using Dynamics, they will keep on facing issues, or they might come up with some new requirements or asks. So what happens? The support consultants, the support consultants will work on regular day-to-day basis to resolve those issues. Sometimes they might get issues. Sometimes they will work. Usually they don't get issues. If there are any vouchers that are corrupted or any data posted wrongly and they want to reverse it, how they will come up for suggestions, or they will seek some suggestions for their process activities. So for that you will have support agreements or support contracts. So until here the project is entirely different implementation project. From here and on, all this will be support projects. So 2 different projects. So testing roles will be confined to here. In between we have this FDD testing as well as normal functional testing, helping in user acceptance tests. So test consultant's role will be like here in testing, writing, working on test cases, preparing test case documents, then preparing user manuals. Sometimes you also prepare user manuals. Once you configure, you have to prepare user manuals as a guide to the users, how they have to work on different processes. You will prepare step-by-step process with screenshots such that the users can refer it while they work on Dynamics. So that will also be there here. Maybe you can just add this point here. User manuals preparation. We have these few steps. So normally when you go for an interview, they might ask you what kind of methodology you followed. You can say one of it, and you can normally say waterfall methodology rather than agile methodology. If it is a big project, you can say agile methodology and all. And if they ask you step-by-step process, you can say it like this. So these are the various steps involved, so that they will understand that you have a good idea about how a project starts and ends. Okay, this explanation part is very key, very important. Anything else? Any confusion in this until here? Any doubts? Anybody?
I have one question.
Yes.
Like, just now you have mentioned that about preparing user manuals, right? This will be handled by business analysts or like the functional.
No. This will be normally handled by functional consultants only. So once you develop or once you configure everything, you know, right, how journals will be worked, how you process different processes will work in Dynamics. So I'll take a simple example. To create a purchase order invoice is the process. So first initially we have to create a purchase order, then confirm the purchase order, then you have to create an invoice for that purchase order. In between you have goods receipt, and once the invoice is posted, you will have the voucher for the invoice, for accounting impacts, and how to track down all these things. So you will usually prepare a step-by-step process, navigate accounts payable to purchase orders, all purchase orders, create a purchase order. So this is how the screenshot look like. Here you give the vendor account name, here you give the product name, here you give the price amount, here you give the tax details. So you will generally prepare a normal user manual, so that when a user from the business side will look into this document, it will help him as a guide to work on that process. So 1 or 2 times they will refer your documentation, and they'll also learn it, right? On regular basis they have to work on the same. So they'll learn and work on. If they have any doubts, again they go back to the manual. So you don't have to be available all the time. They'll refer that manual and work on the activities usually.
How often there will be demos from functional consultant sides, or like the business analyst will be taking all the demos to the client?
So initially, to explain the client about how Dynamics works, so business analyst or the senior consultants will take the responsibility. Later, for explaining the users or giving the user training, functional consultants would be given tasks depending upon your availability and the project's strength and all. They will be given tasks, so that you are the one who configured general ledger. You are the one who is responsible for all the activities in general ledger. So you are the one who is most eligible for explaining the same to the client users or business users, right? So you will be given the task. So you will better explain that. You will be having good idea about what you have configured, right?
Yeah, thank you very much.
So that would be all. I'll just copy down this and paste it here in the chat box so that you can note it down later. Normally, I'll recommend that you prepare a book for writing down all these things. So it would be better convenient for you to re-verify, or you can read them as whenever you want. So I recommend you to go through these points once again. If tomorrow, if you have any doubts, you just let me know. We can discuss on this once again. Or if you have any doubts now, you can put on the points so that we can discuss. We almost. So tomorrow, not tomorrow actually. Tomorrow we don't have class because it's my birthday and my mom's birthday as well. So I'll take an off for tomorrow. From day after tomorrow. Thank you.
Many happy returns of the day advance.
Is it possible to post the recorded video? Yes, the recorded video will be here itself. I'll just stop the recording and it will be posted in the group itself. You can download it or